How you doing?
It's all good, man. Thanks for coming on, talking to me for about an hour or so, and pronounce your name for me so I don't say it wrong.
Yeah, no worries. It's Wesley Lakis. Last
So
name's always the hard one.
Wesley Lakis,
Yeah.
and this is the EricSwahnRacing.com podcast. Well over 100, I think maybe 110s, something like that. So I'm losing track because I already have some of them are published, but some of them I still need to edit in the queue, so it gets confusing. But thanks
Yeah,
for
for
coming
sure.
on. And we met at Pittsburgh just a couple weeks ago, and you were racing, is it the Twins Cup?
Yeah, so I was in the Twins Cup. Yeah,
And
out
that's
there.
a pretty cool track. Tons of elevation, pretty unique in that it's so dramatic in that first sector.
Oh yeah. I mean it's like butter smooth and yeah, those first couple corners are nice, you know. You get a nice wheelie over the top of turn two or three, yeah, two.
The Wheelie
Um
Hill.
yeah. So that's all. It's a fun super fun track, definitely.
And there's certain organizations that discourage wheelies, but you can't not wheelie at some parts of these racetracks.
Oh yeah, nah, I mean, yeah. It's just inevitable. It's just gonna come up. So
So you're in favor of the wheelie. What's your thought on the wheelie?
um I think there's a right time for it. Um, and I think that's there's some more to be said there, but yeah, I mean, I think realistically, like, yeah, you should be able to do wheelies, just don't be doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, don't be unsafe. And actually, most of the
Yeah.
time, wheelies slow you down.
Oh yeah. I mean, an actual race, yeah, you don't want to like legit wheelie. Yeah, you'll go super slow.
It's not a benefit. Everybody's always like, "Oh, you ride? Oh, do a wheelie."
Oh, I know. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, like people doing that to get you to wheelie and stuff. But
It's
yeah,
just
definitely.
normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Not something you want to do all the time, that's for certain.
And so tell me about the bike you're riding. What kind of machine you're running, and do you think that's best for the class, or do you wish you had a different one?
Yeah, so right now I'm on the Aprilia, the RS660. Overall, I think it's a really solid platform. Um, I think that the chassis is pretty good, it makes good power. But I will say, like the development they've been doing on the R7 now, it's seeming like the R7's a pretty good contender. Um, we'll see for next year if the regulations change or not. But honestly, with the development that the Yamahas are, well, the teams that are running the Yamahas have done, I'm thinking the R7's a little bit more competitive, just because they really could do whatever they want with the motor. Where on the Aprilia, we're like a little bit more locked in what we can actually do with the bike. So we'll see. I mean, these last few rounds, Yamaha has pretty much been taking most of the top 10.
Yeah.
So hopefully they change some of the regulations for that. So we'll see. If things stay the same, I think the R7 will still be pretty dominant. But with the right rider, the Aprilia is still very competitive. So
Yeah, it's cool to see kind of a new platform emerge. And is there anybody really developing that Aprilia like they are the Yamaha? Is there anybody making parts for it or making new things?
oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean there's I mean even a couple teams in the paddock who are still like actively riding and developing the bikes. You have Veloce who has their two riders, Caleb and Jody, and then you have Robum, which has Glotty and Teague. So they're obviously all top 10 contenders, and in some cases in the championship or taking first place. So it's definitely like a platform that's getting active development. As far as parts go, I mean, again, we're super restricted in a lot of ways. So there's only so much you can do. I think there's definitely a handful of people who are making parts, but they're like in Italy, for some of the more important things. And so that makes it a little tougher for getting parts. Um, but other than that, yeah, I mean, I know Robum has a bunch of really nice kind of things they've developed and Woodcraft and a couple others for a lot of the bits and pieces you'd need to make the class legal.
So it's almost seems like it's turning into a like a SV twin superbike class.
Oh yeah, I mean it's always been like a builder's class, like from my perspective, especially with the SVs. I mean, the last couple of years, I mean, even you had people building out the FZ07s too, which is basically the R7 now, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's always been kind of a super bike class where everyone's building it as far as they can go. So
For sure. It's just see where the development goes. It's interesting that MotoAmerica is trying out these new classes. They say they're trying to stick to World Superbike spec, but World Superbike doesn't have a twins class or a bagger class. It's kind of
yeah,
different.
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I think it's super funny what they're doing. I mean, at the end of the day, I think whatever brings people in and watching, I think that's pretty cool. Like at Laguna, when we were basically almost sold out, I think we were sold out for a
Yeah.
couple days. Like that was insane. That was such a cool experience. And I really think like the bagger class and even the hooligan class bring a lot of those people, which is really, really cool. It's unfortunate that racing motorcycles isn't as big here as it is elsewhere, but I think to get people in the door and excited about racing again is definitely like a really cool thing to see. But yeah, they definitely deviate. Like, I mean, it's like, I mean, uh, the bagger bikes or whatever they're out there. I mean, they're hardly baggers, like everything's custom and bespoke on those things. I think it's hilarious to watch them race. Like they just look terrifying to ride like that. But, uh, you got to kind of adjust, I suppose. So, and it seems like it's for working out pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. I just did working an event as a track marshal this past weekend at the Bagger Racing League, the Milwaukee Mile, Wisconsin. And that was
Okay.
a whole class of baggers and different classes within the baggers, but maybe 5 or 6 different classes were out there, and it was just great to see a whole different set of people. You also had some professionals come out there. I think it was Shane Narbone, I want to say. I saw Jason Farrell. He was doing tires. He wasn't riding that I saw,
Yeah.
but also Corey West, Patricia Fernandez, and a whole slew of other super fast people. And
Oh, yeah.
it's just great to see a different crowd, different set of faces, a whole new track I'd never been to. I think that was the first time they used that in like 35 years for motorcycles. So it was
Jeez.
kind of like a test run, but it was a full race weekend. It wasn't a test at all. It's just they haven't done it in a while, so they were setting up air fences, and I was helping out with some of those. And they also have imposed a new chicane, or they installed a new chicane that's kind of like just curbings, and I don't think many people like those because you hit them, they're just like Pittsburgh. I think you hit them,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
but these are rubber and they can move. So I was working turn 6, or
Mm,
what we call turn 6, because we use the infield and then part of the banking, but they slow them down with the chicane before they get in the banking. And about every race or every other race, when the race is done, I'm going out there on my supermoto and fixing the chicane and then getting back to my corner in like 30 seconds. So it was cool that I get to ride my bike in between sessions on the racetrack. I like
yeah,
that,
that's
but
cool.
it was not the best solution, I'd say. One of the riders was telling me I would rather go into that corner at 140 miles an hour rather than go through that stupid chicane, and then come arrive slower into the corner because it's safer. It's a banked corner, there's no runoff, there's a wall there, there's only
Yeah.
an air fence on the exit of the corner. It's like, what about the rest of the wall?
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, exactly. That sounds like they ran out of air fence or something.
I mean, they had a bunch of them, but it's a dangerous track the way it's laid out, and they're not even using the full infield because it's kind of like a mini Daytona. So
Oh, okay, yeah.
the horseshoes just
Yep.
don't have enough runoff there.
Ah, okay. I gotcha.
So it's an interesting facility. It was cool to go to a new venue. It'd be cool to ride it. I don't know that I want to go 100% at a place like that. It's
Yeah. Walls
so.
on exits doesn't sound great. Yeah.
What do you think about riding like the Northwest 200s or the Isle of Man type stuff? Is that even in your radar if you got a
It's a
potential opportunity, or you're like, no way, I can't do it?
Oh, hell yeah, I'll do that. Actually, it's funny you say that. I was actually just talking to a buddy about trying to do Isle of Man next year. We'll see. They have the Super Twins class now, which is so it's they upped it up. So now we can run the 660s and the R7s and stuff. So I'm actually looking at seeing what it's going to take to get that done. I might have to do some preliminary stuff to even be able. I might not be able to race it next year, depending on how it goes, but yeah, for sure. It's on the bucket list. Like that's a dream. If I can do that, I mean, it's an insane course. It's like, I mean, it's one in the world, right? But yeah, oh yeah, hell yeah, I'd race that, no problem.
So
I
then
don't know how fast,
if you'd
but
race Isle of Man, then you could argue then you can race anywhere because it's just a different mentality. If you're going to a dangerous corner, you just know you can't lay it down in there. You have to be a little bit more careful. You might be leaving some time on the table, maybe slightly different body position, depending on the surface or conditions. Um,
oh yeah.
More neutral, right? You're not going to 100%. You're just trying to get through the corner.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's a totally different mentality. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's more important to be consistent and finish than it is to crash in a really bad section, which does happen, unfortunately. But yeah, I feel like it's a different mindset for sure to be able
Yeah.
to do stuff like that. So
I've always thought, man, I would only do that if I didn't crash for like 5 seasons in a row. Like, I mean, think about how safe you'd
yeah.
be after that. I mean, you're just listening to your bike and what it's telling you, not going over those limits.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's why I feel like if I could run like the 660 or something, I would feel pretty confident and comfortable because now I have a lot of seat time. Unfortunately, I have a lot of crashes. So, it's like I know what it can do and what it can't do. And, I'm not like super opposed to like riding on like basically a road surface
Yeah.
that's not really a racetrack. I think that it's just a little bit more dynamic. But like you said, you just kind of pace yourself and ride within like what your limits are. So
Yeah. So Isle of Man's on the list. And are you doing any more of the rounds for this season? What's your season look like?
oh yeah, so we got New Jersey coming up this week, and then it's just Alabama, which is like a week later. So yeah, I'm gonna finish out the season this year. Um, it started off with only supposed to I was only supposed to do 2 rounds, and I was like just to kind of figure out what I needed to make a full season happen, and then it just like, oh, one more, one more, one more. Oh, you're halfway, you might as well go the rest of the way. So yeah, it's a full season this year, which has been I mean super awesome, super lucky to be able to make that happen, and then hopefully a full season next year is the goal to put that together now that I have all the development and the experience at all these tracks and all these things. But yeah, finishing out the season. So got to leave in like a couple days, which will be fun
Heck
for
yeah.
Jersey.
And are you on your own team? Have you developed your own team or are you on another team?
Yeah, so I'm a privateer. So basically, my team consists of whoever can help me that particular weekend. I do have a race team that I am like affiliated with, who luckily will be there next weekend, which will be cool, which is RSP Racing. And so we'll have the most of the team there to help out, which will be fun. But yeah, it's definitely the privateer kind of show up, figure it out as you go, ride, just try to get on the track and qualify and ride and stuff. But I'm hoping next year I can put together something a little bit more solidified and consistent because it's definitely I mean, this level of racing is much higher than the club level. And even though you have less track time overall and less racing, it's far more development and like learning how to go fast. And I think that's really attributed by having a set crew as well. Like this is like a team sport. It,
Oh
it,
yeah.
it transfers from being like an individual sport to a team sport real quick. And that's pretty evident. But I've been super thankful to have a lot of like help from everyone in the paddock. I mean, everyone's just in general, the community, as motorcycle communities are, is super, super cool. But yeah, pretty much do whatever I can to get by. So
Awesome. It's cool to see that. I think most people are in the same position that you are. Most people
yeah.
do not have a dedicated team. They just kind of, I wouldn't say fly by the seat of their pants, that because it seems rude, but it's not as well thought out as most people think. It's like, hey, do you have a free weekend this weekend? Okay, this guy can do it this weekend. I need someone else for the next round, and then
Yeah.
there's always a different level of competency too. Some people are just good with taking off the tire warmers, doing those kind of things. Some people can do a full motor swap in a half hour. It's vastly different capabilities.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, some of these teams have like dedicated data people and, like suspension and mechanics, and you're like, yeah, I got one guy, he's my buddy. He can take the stands off and warmers off, right? Definitely totally different ball game. So
So I have earned my professional license for MotoAmerica Super Sport class back in 2015, but I've always been too broke to use it. So tell me what it's like going to your first round and all the new things that you experienced.
Oh my God. Yeah. So my first round was this year at Daytona. And I had I went to Daytona in October the year before, so luckily I had a little experience there. Um, but pretty much like I showed up, I'd never ridden the bike. The Aprilia had just gotten finished being built and it had like 8 miles on it. Literally never tested, I haven't tested anything at this point. And so I'm just like, oh crap, my first practice session, I'm gonna go out and blah blah blah. And if you recall Daytona, we had like really bad weather, so we didn't really get a lot of seat time. If I remember correctly, I think our practice either got shortened to like 5 minutes or canceled or something like that. But basically, we got
Yeah,
like almost no time to really do any development.
I think we
And
had a lightning delay,
yeah, lightning delays too.
high
Yeah,
winds.
yes, yeah, it was a whole thing. And when I first hopped on the bike, the suspension was awful. Like, um, I couldn't even turn the thing. It was so raked out and like so just wrong that it was like no matter how hard you would toss it, like you're like yanking it as hard as you can, it just moved at like a fixed speed, like you're carrying a sandbag. And I'm just like, this thing is unrideable. It's so bad. And just basically managing because Daytona's super long. Just hold the throttle open, like you'll be fine. Just make it through, kind of thing. Um, and yeah, luckily I had a couple people that were down there to give me a hand. And I went through and, we're slowly making some changes and making a little development. And then it's just like race time. It's like, okay, you got like 30 minutes on track and it's like, all right, you're going to go do your first race. And if I remember correctly, it was a double header. But that first race, like a ton of people crashed. There was like an oil spill in the back section of the chicane and there's like so many people that crashed. Um, which was just like insane on its own because it's like you're going and then like it's like 4 or 5 people crash and you're like all right we'll go around more like two more people crash and you're just like holy crap, like all right, let's just keep it together. So um it was definitely like a really cool experience. I met a lot of really cool people that round as well because I didn't know anyone, but I will say that if anything I really learned like I learned how to make expensive mistakes is what that comes down to. I didn't crash at Daytona, but we finished out pretty strong, and I finished in the points, which was really cool for the first race. That's not bad in my opinion. I had
Yeah,
a good
top
race as
15.
well. Yeah, top 15. If one of the mistakes I made though, I actually got DQ'd for the first race, which would have been another top 15, but I didn't realize that you could only run the compounds that Dunlop brought. So I was running like a different compound in the front, so I got DQ'd and I had
Oh
no idea.
no.
I was just like, oh no,
Yeah,
like
they have
sucked.
to they use the tire allocation stickers, and if you're not and they check. They actually they have someone at pit out looking
Yeah.
at everyone, or maybe they're doing it on the grid or different times, but yeah, it's supposed to be spec tires, spec fuel, spec class with different modifications here and there that are allowed, and they want you to buy their tires.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, made that mistake, right? Like again, it's really like for me, it's just making those mistakes and learning, right? Because at the end of the day, like I'm not professional at like I have to be out there and win, right? I don't have some contract where I, need to perform a certain level. Like I'm doing it for fun, and seeing how far I can go. But yeah, it was definitely like a huge learning weekend for me.
Yeah.
But it was super fun, and I met a lot of really cool people that weekend. So.
And so what's the minimum amount of crew that you have to have? Is it one person? Is it two? Is it more?
Well, minimum is one.
Okay.
Like you absolutely need one. Ideally, you have three. Two is good. But yeah, two you can pretty do okay with. But yeah, three is like the perfect amount. One, you're gonna have a rough weekend, is what it
Yeah.
comes down to. Like it's hard to be everywhere all at once because there's a lot of logistics running around, especially with tire windows and stuff. Like you can't just bring your tires over whenever you want. You got to get tires changed at a certain time, but you also have to like do that work. You got to take wheels off. So I definitely mechanic quite a bit, um, just because it's out of necessity, depending on how many hands I have for the weekend.
Yeah. And are you doing maintenance at the track too, or do you try to get that done before rounds, or changing oil sometimes at the track?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm in the I was driving to all the rounds at the for the first half of the season. And then I decided I did not want to drive back to the East Coast from the West Coast and then back again. I was like, forget that. So now I'm having someone transport, which means I have to do all my maintenance Thursday. So that's like oil changes, like pulling, I actually this weekend I have to like swap radiators and, do all that and like pull the front end, blah blah blah. Like, yeah. So we do all the maintenance there. And luckily I haven't been crashing, so it's not as bad. It used to be I'm like cutting body work till 2 in the morning, like, trying to get the bike together because it's mangled from the last round. But yeah, it's pretty much get it all done on Thursday, which is honestly like once you figure out your program and what you're doing and you've kind of got most things settled, it's not terrible. But it's far from, you know, having a team of three mechanics fully disassemble the bike almost, or whatever. Like it's good enough. It gets us through, So
Yeah, and it's like a traveling circus. I mean, you got to carry everything with you, all your parts, all your tools, all your spares, and just be able to pop up anywhere in a parking lot, and just that's your pit for the weekend.
yes, 100%. Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you prefer being in the garages, or do you have a big enough canopy footprint that you can be outside?
I mean, I can run a canopy. I usually try to get a garage though, just because it does make things logistically a little easier. You don't really have to do a lot of setup, which is nice. And then you're also more sheltered from, um, you know, changing weather conditions. If it's super windy or raining, like it pit when it was raining and whatever else, like it's really nice to have a proper garage with power and all this stuff, and you're not running, your generator and all these other things. But yeah, I usually try to get a garage. Like I'll be in a garage in New Jersey, but then like Pitt doesn't have one. So,
Right. Or they have very few
or
available.
I mean, not Pitt, sorry, Alabama,
Yeah,
Barber.
right.
Barber. I didn't see any garages available, but yeah, Pitt. I was in garages at Pitt as well, so that's came in real handy.
For
So
sure. I was yeah, for a moment there, trying to find some shelter. I'm like, I don't have shelter. I have a tent.
yeah,
I'm on a
yeah.
motorcycle.
Oh yeah, did you just rode in
Well,
and camped it?
I put it in the back of my truck because that way you can bring a cooler and a lot more
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
stuff, and kind of it's more luxury when you can do that. But I do have ability to be a backpack camper. But I brought the big tent.
Okay.
Big tent's easier. It's a 60-second setup. The
Oh
small
yeah.
one, takes 15 minutes or something.
Yeah, forget that. You just pop it up. That sounds way nicer.
Yep, done. Yeah, some people, I love it. They can get there an hour before me. They're still setting up, and 30 seconds after I stopped, I parked my car. I'm already set up halfway.
Yeah, 100%.
It's great. Um, so I'll be going to New Jersey and Pittsburgh. I've been hitting 6 out of 11 of the rounds this year for MotoAmerica as a track marshal, flag marshal, whatever they need. Two separate positions: flag marshal, the one with the flags in his hand, or
Okay.
track marshal is one out there picking up bikes, or whatever needs to happen, loading bikes on trailers and things like that.
Oh, yeah, that'll be fun, man. That'll be really cool. That's one thing I've never done is like track marshal or anything like that or flagging.
Well, you
Sounds
don't
like it'd
have
be
to do it
interesting.
for MotoAmerica if you're riding. I can't ask you to ride or to
Yeah,
flag if you're riding,
that'd
but
be impossible.
you could do another weekend like an amateur round for CCS or Wera or Arma,
Yeah,
or I just did Bagger Racing League. So there's a lot
yeah.
of opportunities to do it. And you can make money doing it. Now, the biggest ones like Formula One, MotoGP, IndyCar, a lot of the car racing organizations do not pay a dime. So that's like just purely
Oh,
volunteer.
really?
So, but the
Uh,
motorcycle ones typically do pay. Um, so the last couple weekends and the next couple weekends, I'll be doing it every weekend. So sometimes it's like $140 a day. I think it was 450 for 3 days for the Bagger Racing League. So even for me driving from Michigan to
yeah,
Wisconsin,
it's
I
great.
still I still make money. It's free camping. I never get a hotel, so that way you save more or you make more, however you look at it.
Yeah. No, that sounds like a cool gig for sure. Especially because like if you get to, especially for like something like the baggers where you get to just basically watch them. I mean, you have to be attentive and pay attention and stuff,
Yeah.
but it sounds like it'd be definitely a cool experience to have.
Best seat in the house. I mean,
Yeah,
you're right there. There's no barrier visually in front of you. I mean, you're behind some sort of structure, but like you're out there, you could step 2 feet away and now you're open, you know? So it's
yeah,
you have to be smart and know what's going on. Like you said, pay attention. What people don't realize, I think, is interesting is, you're watching MotoGP or Formula One, all these major organizations, they have GPS of where the car or the bike is every point of the track. It's like pinpointed. You can see it on a map. They even show it sometimes as a cool feature. They do not have that in any other organization, including MotoAmerica. They
huh,
only what they do. I don't know about MotoAmerica, what they have in their tower, but what
yeah,
what marshals do for every organization is we call around the last bike to clear the track. So like once checker flag flies and everybody goes through, then the start says clear. Then one says clear once the last bike has passed your station, almost to the next one. So we're clearing the track, making sure it's cold before emergency vehicles go out and pick up bikes or ambulance or whatever the situation is. Or if I need to go out and reset cones, we have to clear the track before we do that. Otherwise, you're in a situation where someone could be coming at 150 miles an hour, and now you're on the racetrack. It creates problems. So you
yeah.
always got to clear the track. But I find it interesting that race control really doesn't know where all the bikes are. We have to call around with the radio system every time.
That
Um,
is really strange.
and
Because
so
like,
it's just unique. You don't realize that as a racer, what's going on and what things are
yeah,
happening, or who's forgetting their transponder time and time again.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, one of the things I think is kind of cool is my laps, if I recall, their new stuff has this capability. Like you can get systems that will do all this tracking, but then one thing I thought was really cool is you can hook it into data, so you can actually get data as well. I mean, obviously that's a totally different level of like, I think they do that in F1 to find cheaters and stuff like that, right? But what was cool is that you could pump like yellow flags or red flags into the dashes, into the dash system, which I thought was really unique. I mean, obviously the light system is really good compared to like say the club level of just red flags and corners. Like that light system and just for context, the light system is just all these lights every 100 feet or something like that that blink red on red flags. Like it's so hard to miss those. Like
It's like
you're,
the back of an ambulance. It's super bright.
yeah.
They're LED boards, almost blindingly bright, especially in the mornings when it's
Oh yeah.
blackout. It's pitch dark, and yeah, it's really cool the developments that are happening. I think in the future we're gonna have the same thing that you're talking about, the light system in your car or on your vehicle. But even if it's on your dash, you're not looking at your dash most of the time. It's
No.
completely out of your vision. But maybe if they had some helmet, um, like holograms going on, so it's not
Yeah.
distracting. You can still see it through it. It's like a transparent somehow, but it'll shoot like a message on your visor, like yellow flag or something. I don't know. Um, I think that would be um, a cool feature.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think they should adopt the new technology though. That way you can get better tracking around the track. Because like one of the things that would be cool too is if you could take that data and make it presentable. That's one thing I always, as far as if you wanted to like really watch, you really only have the camera feed and then, lap timers information, which is only so good. But if you had like a better visual of where people are at the track and what's going on with their bike and the ability to kind of, I think what would be really interesting is like, yeah, at MotoGP, they kind of do this stuff where they'll give you all the telemetry on the broadcast. But I
Yeah.
think what they don't do is they don't allow you to go. I mean, obviously for that level of racing, probably for a reason, but you can't just go watch an individual person. I think that would be cool, if they had some ability to like get more context around like the individual or like if you want to watch so and so ride or whatever, because at the end of the day like the coverage is going to be the front pack, and that's usually the top three,
Yeah.
depending on how far everyone is from each other. But definitely would be, I think, a good shift, to get a little bit more flexibility in like what you want to kind of look at.
Oh,
But
for sure. Like the F1 Experience TV, you can like look at different cameras and watch the aerial view or the turn 6 view or a specific rider or driver. I think it's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah,
To
that's cool.
be able to broadcast your own data. Like they don't allow you to run GoPros or anything like that because they have permissions or they own the rights to that content. So they're very secretive or very strict, I guess you say, about recording and the use of that footage. But I think it would be also interesting because, you know, I'm in kind of the same boat you are, where I would not be front pack just getting into professional motorcycle racing. Nobody is going to be,
No, no,
um,
no.
unless you're like a Joe Roberts figure, you know, first race
Yeah,
he wins everything. So it's like there could be several races made out of one race. You could have like the front pack, the normal race that they just mostly talk about
yeah,
the leaders. You could have a mid pack race where they
yeah.
look at all the footage again and re-edit for a mid-pack race, you know, and then they
That would
could
be
have
so
like
cool.
a tail end race or a back marker race. Like, well, look, he's
Yeah,
getting lapped again. Like, he got out of the way good though, you know.
yeah. No,
um,
100%.
because it irritates me that sometimes they never even mention this person's name. I mean, he just drove
Yeah,
halfway across the country. He did his best race ever. He had his, you know, fastest lap after fastest lap for him. He improved over his
yeah.
personal best. He was 3 seconds faster than he was in qualifying, all this stuff. They didn't even mention his name. I'm like, that's kind of rude.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, they do that to like even some of the fast guys. They do that sometimes, where it's like, I think what is it? Last round, I forget who. Oh, I feel bad now. Anyways, they like someone broke the track record or something like that. They like didn't even really talk about it or cover it. Like I don't know. I guess they're trying to build their storylines for whatever else they're trying to do. But yeah, I think really like they have the footage. If it somehow added to their viewership, I mean, I would pay a premium to be able to see myself race the whole race. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's imperative data. I mean, and honestly, not having that camera footage is such good learning material. To not be able to do that too, just as from a perspective of learning and getting better and faster, like that's also really unfortunate. So it's yeah, I would love to see something like that. I think there's definitely an opportunity to capture some like additional value and potential, viewership and whatever else. So
I mean, and how hard would it really be? Is you already have all the footage. You just need someone
yeah,
who's good at editing to splice it all together. And it doesn't even have to be perfect. I've thought for a while, like I could start a film company and just I'm already going to these racetracks anyways. But I'm thinking like most of these cameras that they use are $100,000 broadcast cameras,
oh
like
yeah,
HD. You know, they can just stream immediately to their truck, and it's all put together. And they have a team of people who are like editing and splicing and directing and doing different things. So you don't
yeah,
need to go that production quality.
no,
My cell phone is a 4K camera that's better than any camera that I've ever bought.
yeah,
So it's like this is with my laptop. You don't need anything super high tech. Um, I just started using a microphone recently. Just I think this is the first podcast I'm using it with on my show. So
oh that's cool.
trying things out. But my point is, you don't need to go over the top with it. You can start small and just have cameras on a rotating thing. Um, every time a bike goes by, it just follows that bike. You know, just resets,
Yeah,
follows that bike. I mean, or have a person there just standing there with a tripod, just moving it. But just like Formula One, they use volunteers. I'd have to start out with volunteers. Like, who wants to help grow this? Let's get some amateur race footage,
yeah.
because they have amateur all kinds of sports on TV. They have bag toss on TV. Like you're telling me there's not a place for Wera to have TV coverage?
Oh yeah, I mean, I really wanted to pursue this actually for to be able to cover like the club level even. I think the biggest issue was some of the tracks, it was hard to get like enough bandwidth to be able to like upload a stream. I mean, I guess it's different if you're actually like working with the track and some of them are just in the middle of nowhere, but that's different with like Starlink and stuff now. But yeah, I don't think it would be that terrible to do. But a lot of these systems like you can even use like you could set up a basic wireless network. Sorry to get into like a little technical stuff,
No, that's
but
what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, but you could use like a basic wireless kind of network setup, like a mesh network, right? So you just need power, and then they need to all link back somewhere, and then you could run a bunch of like, you know, IP cameras, like basic cameras that you find in any security, so like newer security system, and they make nice ones. And then you could basically do the same thing. You could bring all those feeds back into a single place, and then do your directing and upload them, or live stream them, whatever you'd want to do. But it's really not terrible to do. And even then, like even if you had three cameras at any track is like most of the track.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, well, give or take, but it definitely seems like it would be really cool and not super high cost to do. But again, it's like, how do you, it would definitely be a volunteer thing, right? It would definitely be an out
Yeah.
of pocket thing.
It would have to
It's
start
definitely,
out that way. But I mean,
yeah,
so it's the thing is, if you have a good enough idea and you can get in front of the right people, you can get just about anything funded,
yeah,
right? So it doesn't always
that's
have to come
true.
from your own money. Like, I don't know who would be interested in that, but I'm trying to, trying to go down that route, and I would love to do broadcasting. Like, I'm trying to get better at public
Heck
speaking.
yeah.
I always watch the races anyway, so why not get paid to talk about it?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, hey, if you're looking to do that, I mean, my background is super technical in nature, and I have looked at this before too, because I really wanted to do it. If you need a set of hands or whatever, like I'd be happy to do something there. Because, yeah, I think getting people interested in racing is a proponent of making it more accessible, and being able to watch it makes it accessible, right? Like that's the most accessible thing. Like if I can just
Oh
go
yeah.
watch it and see what it's about rather than having to drive 4 hours, like who's going to drive 3.5 hours into the middle of the desert to go watch an amateur race?
Very few
Basically no
people.
one.
Just a family
Yeah,
and friends and maybe some super
exactly.
hardcore fans, but the
Yeah.
general public doesn't even know that there's a racetrack over there.
Yeah, exactly. So like to make it more accessible in like a more modern platform is what I would say. Like a modern way of it's I mean, I'm just sitting on my couch. I'm like, oh, let's see what this is about, right? And I actually think the amateur racing is the most exciting because it's just you don't know what you're gonna see, right? Like there's so many different skill levels out there that you don't know what's gonna happen. It's like always like a toss up, unless like you know, it depends what organization you're racing with. But I find that the amateur racing could be pretty exciting to watch sometimes. So
Yeah, and it's just people like you and me. I went to the Bagger Racing League over the weekend, and one of the guys I was talking to said it was his third event ever. Like he did,
yeah,
um, this is the third time he's been to the racetrack with his motorcycle, and now he's racing in the Bagger Racing League. Like you don't have to have this, top-notch race bike. He was just his street bike that he converted. He took off the license plate and the turn signals. He like had a few modifications, less than $1,000 spent on the mods, I'd say.
yeah.
And he's out there racing. I mean, he's not going as fast as some other people, but he's out there. He's learning. He's getting that seat time, and that's where you got to start. You're not going to start at a pro level. You just build up from where you are. I think I might have lost your feed there for a sec,
Oh,
but there you're
yep,
back.
yeah,
That wasn't too
yeah,
long.
I'm back. Sorry about that.
All good. So yeah, I was just saying, it's great to see new people into the sport, and he's out there having fun and getting faster. So what's going on in your life? You just getting ready for this next round?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, uh, just trying to get everything prepped. I gotta bring a bunch of parts with me. Like I was saying, I gotta swap that radiator. So yeah, I fly out, what is it, tomorrow night, I guess, at this point. Um, and then I gotta, I've been trying to clean up, as most motorcycle people, you probably have way too much motorcycle stuff. It's just kind of how it happens. So right now I'm actually trying to like go through all of my used stuff and try to sell it all off. And then I'm also selling one of my bikes. So I have a Kramer, if
Okay.
you've seen those, which is just like a bespoke kind of whatever. So I don't know. I got to figure out how to sell it. It's so hard to sell because it's such a fun bike. I'm just like, ah. But yeah, I gotta figure that all out. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I'm not doing a whole lot. I've just been traveling so much though. I actually in the middle of the season, I just moved from the New Jersey area back to the West Coast, which is where I'm from. So I'm kind of just floating in like Northern California, staying with friends, family, whatever, until the race season's over. Just because it's like constant travel
Yeah.
for racing. But we'll see. I was actually looking last night. Uh, it's actually cheaper for me to temporarily live in Italy for 3 months than it is to try and find like housing in California, which I find absolutely absurd.
You should definitely
Uh,
do that.
yeah, I mean, I'm genuinely contemplating. I mean, it's just like, you can go there for 3 months or whatever without a visa. And I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I can save money. I can literally travel to Italy, live in Italy, and save money, which makes no sense.
Could you
So
like
I
rent
might,
an apartment over there? How would that work?
yeah, yeah. So like, the easiest way to do it, that's like the most accessible, is to go through Airbnb and just get like an apartment in, maybe like, pick your pick. I mean, for me, I might go to Milan or something like that. Hey, you get bored after a month, you go to you go to another city, right? But I'm talking to a couple of my friends in Italy to see like what racing there is though too, because I'd like to ride. My goal this off season is to ride a lot. So I'm going to see if there's any real riding in the off season, and then that'll kind of dictate my decision. Because I got to train. Like at the end of the day, like if I want next season to be successful, I need to focus on training. I can't just go like do nothing for 3 months, you know what I mean, or just like work and hang out.
For sure.
Um, but yeah, so Airbnb, its averages for apartments are like $1,000 a month, which is crazy for like a one bed or two bed. I mean, at least like where I've typically lived. I know there's other places in the US where you can get cheaper. But yeah, so I've been looking at that, and yeah, otherwise it's 100% focused on just like trying to get everything set up for the rest of the season right now.
And do you speak Italian?
No, no, not at all. Yeah, so I don't speak any Italian, which makes it that much more fun. But you pick up a little bit here and there, and maybe I'll learn a little bit. Languages have never been my strong suit though,
Yeah.
so we'll see. It should be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, it should be interesting. As long as you can find how to get some wine and where's the bathroom, that's all you need.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's it. That's all you need, right? Yeah, that's too funny. Have you ever been over to Italy or anything like that to
No, I've
ride
been
or?
been to Canada a bunch of times. I have family in Canada,
Okay.
but that's only a few hours away, so it doesn't feel like it's a different country. I've been there a bunch of different times. They just have a lot of coffee shops and like hockey a lot.
Yeah, it just sounds a little different than here.
Yeah. Slight accent, but yeah, it's pretty close. I'd love to be traveling some more to other countries. I actually just got to renew my passport. I took new photos for it not long ago. Just got to send it
Oh
in
yeah.
and fill out the form and all that stuff. But yeah, it's on my list. Actually, one of my friends is in Italy right now, going through
Oh
Venice,
really?
and that's the town with all the water everywhere.
Yeah,
Um,
I believe so. Yeah.
it's pretty interesting. They're going through on like um, a boat, one of those small boats, and they're being pushed along by the gondola man. Is it?
Yep. Yeah,
So
I think so.
it's an iconic place to be, and I'd love to see that, see the history. America is so new. That history's been around
Yeah.
there for thousands of years. We have like antique stores, like yeah, it's 20 years old. It's old. Like it's not really
Yeah.
that old.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like even the West Coast to the East Coast, like the West Coast, most of the stuff is like recently developed, like you're saying. But compare that to like some of the first cities like Boston. Boston is seems ancient, but then compared to like, obviously like you're saying, it's totally different.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I've never been to Italy, so I have no idea. So we'll see. I've never had the opportunity to travel, because it's like you're stuck at a job or you're stuck at whatever. Like right now I work remote, so it's like, I can live anywhere. Okay, cool. This is great.
Really changes your whole lifestyle.
Oh yeah, 100%. I just gotta figure out how to consistently travel with a dog though. That's the only thing.
A little
That's what
difficult
makes
to
it tough.
I mean, you can make them your, what is it, your spirit animal? That's not it.
Yeah, my spirit.
Yeah, make
I
him
mean, I
your
was.
service dog. That's what I meant to say.
Oh
A
yeah,
service
yeah,
animal.
yeah, yeah. He actually he kind of is at this point. He's like one of those dogs that's just like super friendly. But like just like he's missing all his teeth, so his tongue always hangs out. Like he's just like he's an old man, is what I call him. He's an old man. He just kind of sleeps and does whatever. So
Do you bring him to the track?
he does not come to the track with me. So he actually has separation anxiety. So it makes it really hard to deal with him at the track because as soon as I leave to go on track, he's freaking out,
Oh yeah.
and it's just like there was one time where I did a track day with him, and every time I go out on track, he would like try to get into something. He actually made his way into a metal, kind of like those like disposable metal kind of tins or whatever that had a bunch of cinnamon rolls in it. He like pierced the top of it with his fangs and like ripped it open and got into cinnamon rolls and ate a bunch of cashews and stuff.
Oh no.
And I was just like, oh, this is such a nightmare. So he got sick, obviously. He was fine, but it's just like he's just too much of a handful to deal with. Like I need to actually have one person in my crew dedicated to just taking care of my dog.
Yeah.
So
It's a
he
full-time
ends up,
job.
yeah, it really is. But he's good otherwise. But yeah, so he never comes to the track with me anymore because it's just too much.
Yeah.
So
And what kind of dog?
so he's like a Dachshund Terrier mix. So he's like a little dog. He's like 11, 12 pounds. Um, long nose, long tail, all black.
Okay.
But he's like going gray because he's an old man,
Yeah,
he's what is he? He's like 15 now, so he's getting up there.
sure.
And then he's just got his two like fangs in front and then no teeth. So he's a funny looking little dog, but he's
Yeah.
he's a good dog. So
It's always nice to have a companion,
oh yeah, 100%. Makes a world of a difference, I'd say.
for sure. Um, so how are you training now for all these different motorcycle rounds you're going to? Are you doing a lot of fitness in the gym, on the bicycle, or just a lot of on the motorcycle training?
So I have been mainly doing like kind of like uh gym training is what I would call it. I've been working with a personal trainer since the start of this year because I kind of realized like for me the limiting factor in my success is going to be fitness, right? Like if you can't ride the same way for the entire race, then you're not going to get better because you'll start making mistakes. I mean, I've literally been behind people in races who I can tell are getting fatigued and then make mistakes and then crash because it's like the pace is so much higher, right? Like the pace is so much higher. But yeah, so I've been working with a personal trainer 3 times a week. I'm trying to get a dietitian um, that won't cost an exorbitant amount of money to try and like bring in the food and figure out what makes sense there because it's you can only work out so much until like you really need to adjust what you're eating to like get better results. But yeah, so I've been doing that since the start of the year. I don't get as much of an opportunity for like seat time. It's kind of tough right now because I'm like in transition and moving. I've been fortunate to get into like a handful of weekends. Like I was able to do that Weir weekend, I believe, for before at Pitt the week before, and then a couple other places. But yeah, once the off season hits, it's going to be like 3 days a week riding. The goal is to go down to like Southern California. I mean, obviously we talked about Italy, but move to Southern California and then ride mini bikes and like dirt bikes, which I've never ridden dirt bikes, like 3 times a week, just to like learn as much as I can, be as fit as I can, in addition to working out 3 times a week. So we'll see. I'm really trying to push as hard as I can. Like I'm at this point where I feel like I'm still young enough that I can like still be fairly competitive. And I'd say I'll probably only have a handful of more of years before like I the natural way of the world kind of goes is I just start to not be able to do everything I can, but we'll see. We'll see how long I can maintain it for.
You
So,
still look like a young guy. About how old?
I'm like 22,
Okay.
no, I'm kidding. I'm 29, but um, yeah, no, I mean, I'm still fairly young. I'm fortunate I can do it at this age. It's just it's a financial commitment. It's so much money. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like fine. I always thought it was like trying to fund a NASA project.
Oh my God. I mean, if we stopped racing altogether, we probably could have flown multiple missions to the moon at this point.
Yeah, it's a lot. So you have other people helping you out, sponsors or companies in your corner?
Yeah, so um, this year has been pretty good. I get a good amount of help from a lot of like New England places, so Woodcraft, um, Seacoast Sport Cycle, they're like an Aprilia dealer, they're the ones that built my bike, which is cool. Um, I get a lot of help from like this year I got a lot of help from like innovation, uh, and REB graphics and stuff that did a lot of the graphics work, which is great. Which is Reese Briotti. Um, and then we get a handful of sponsorships through like my team, RSP Racing, which we've been working with like Tony's Track Days. I don't know if you've heard of them. They do a lot of like stuff in New England. They're really, really awesome. Really, really cool people. But yeah, there's a lot of people. And then Superbike Supply is another one. I'm trying to think everything that's on there.
It's a list.
And then yeah, it's a huge list. And then I've been getting a ton of help from Optimum Performance, which they're a like tuner and Aprilia dealer on the West Coast, and they've been like awesome, like really, really awesome with helping me with the bike and stuff, and a bunch of other stuff. Like I'd say it'd be an integral at this point to any success I've had. So yeah, there's been a lot of help. Next year, I really do. I think one of the biggest things though is it's one. I mean, and you understand this 100% too, which is like it's one thing to get discounts on everything, but at the end of the day, it still costs money to go and race and all these things. So one of the things I really need to spend a lot of time on is figuring out like better ways to get more like cash sponsorship. Whether that's through social media or whatever else it is, but it's definitely probably one of the harder things to get. And it's also super uncomfortable to ask for, like, I don't know about you, but I've always been like, oh, I can do it myself. Like, oh, no, it's okay. I don't need help. But then it's like you get to a point and you're like, crap, I can't do any of this on my own. And there's no
Yeah.
way I can like fund this like realistically at this level, right? It's like,
I've
just
always
all,
thought that the hardest part of racing is just funding it. Because I'm a great racer. Just the only reason I'm not out there banging bars with you is because I couldn't find enough funding to do it. So um, that's why I'm talking right now and hoping that I can grow an audience that's big enough that Coca-Cola wants to sponsor me, or insert
perfect.
corporation X wants to sponsor me, because that's what I'm really going for. And I just found this new. There's a woman who's talking about why your marketing deck sucks and what you need to do to make it better. And then she's
Mm,
having like webinars and all kinds of stuff. And I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna look into that. And it's like she gives you a whole bunch of information for free. Maybe she sells a book, like an e-course or something like that. And I'm just saying to myself, I just the other day, I need to go out to like construction companies, like huge equipment manufacturers, corporations, anyone, national chains, like think Kyle Wyman and Panera Bread, like
yeah.
um, major corporations who has hundreds of millions of dollars and is already sponsoring companies. Get your deck together, get your marketing and advertising, words in order, and go out with a suit and tie to each company, with, spiral bound sponsorship decks, and hand them out to the executives and get a meeting with them in person. I mean, that's really how you're going to do it, unless you hire a manager to do it for you. That's what he's going to do, or he already has those
Yeah.
contacts. Because it's like motorcycle racing is so awesome to watch, and it's so visual. I think it's more interesting than car racing. So,
Oh, I
but
agree.
car racing, like a NASCAR engine, costs as much as my entire season.
Yeah.
Like, so it's so much cheaper for the sponsors, and it's
Yes.
a growing sport. And really what we provide is marketing and advertising, because the show doesn't get better if the riders aren't riding. If there's only 10 people in it, no one cares. But the more people who
Yeah.
do it, the better the show gets and the higher the competition level gets. And we have people from, I don't know, dozens of countries that participate or have participated in MotoAmerica already, and
Yeah.
classes like WERA even. So it's just cool to be able to provide that marketing value.
Oh yeah, and I mean that could even be better if we were doing broadcasting for a club level too, because then
Yep.
it's like obviously if it gets viewership and stuff. But yeah, I
And
mean
yeah, go ahead.
I was just yeah, I mean I was gonna say like the Twins Cup. Holy crap, this year has been insane. I think there's been almost every round there's been more people trying to qualify than there are spots on the grid. And like the top 10 are all within like a second or two of each other. Like it's insane. This year is so competitive. And I would love to invite that and get more and more, you know. I
Yeah,
think
and
it's a
I
good
love
thing.
that there's purses for certain races and for certain classes, and Daytona is like $175,000 purse. So that brings out people from the woodwork. I mean, if
Yeah.
there's an opportunity to make money racing motorcycles, I'm going to be there, you know? And right
Oh yeah.
now it's not quite there yet. Like I just
No.
saw the PGA release something about their golfers, Pro Golfing Association. They said their minimum payment for their top tier players is like $500,000. If they do this series, you get $500,000, and that's in addition
Just to
to,
show up.
yeah, that's your base salary, minimum salary, just to show up, and that's in addition to all of the purses for each round.
Yeah.
And so there is nothing like that in MotoAmerica that I know of. Now, if you pre-register, I understand. If you pre-register for the whole season, you're a season entry type of rider instead of an individual rider. So you get discounts on all of your entries from doing it season wide, and you do get, as long as you complete practice, qualifying, and the races, all the sessions for the event, you do get some kickback, some money from that. So it's a small amount. It's not really a salary, but they're getting
It's a
there.
discount.
It's a discount, you know. So it's like it
Yeah.
helps out, but it's not $500,000. I'm not asking for $500,000
No.
here. I'm like, can I at least pay my rent and buy food, please? Like, I don't live a luxurious life. I just like to ride motorcycles.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be cool if they did that, especially, I mean, I don't know logistically what it takes to run MotoAmerica, but even if they brought in like if we could somehow bring in like class sponsors or something like that, or some other way to provide more money for the classes. Because I mean, even Twins Cup, like, you know, if you're getting first place every race, which is just not going to happen, like you're getting $2,500, you know, maybe 5 grand for a double event, which is only a handful of them. I mean, that doesn't even pay,
For
like that pays your
tires.
yeah, it pays your tire bill
Yeah.
maybe, right? Like you're like, oh, cool, but yeah, and like the manufacturer, I actually one thing I was surprised to see is like Aprilia doesn't have any contingency. Like Aprilia is just like, you know, whatever. But then like KTM and stuff, like they have great stuff, but there's nothing that works for the Twins Cup. So you're like,
Ah.
oh. And then Yamaha has some good stuff too. But I mean, even the manufacturers kind of stepping up and providing support too, I think is key for it to all making sense. But yeah, I would love to see like, yeah, heck yeah, it would be sick. If I could break even, I'd be happy. Even if it cost me half of what it cost me, I'd still be happy, you know.
I think there'd be a lot more entries, and that even brings up the competition higher because there might be 45 people who show up to try to qualify, and I don't know, it might differ on each racetrack how many people they actually allow to race.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, even well, yeah, I know there's limits to how many people they can have on track at once or whatever, or like racing. Um, but like even you look at motocross or like any kind of trials stuff, it's so accessible because it's so inexpensive. Competition's insane. Like I've never raced any of that stuff, but just from my friends and that I know that do race, you know, they're fast expert riders, but then they're like middle of the road dirt bike riders, you know,
Yeah.
like they're like not even in the top classes because it's so fierce. Like competition's so crazy fierce. But yeah, I would like to see the sport grow more, and I really think making the higher levels of racing more accessible, like not just making the amateur level be where you're at forever, right? Like you should be able to, it should be feasible for people to be able to do these things without making an exorbitant amount of money, you know, or like sacrificing everything in their life.
I
Like,
know
I mean, I know
people,
we all do, but
yeah. Yeah, I know people who have literally sold their house to go race motorcycles. And that's where the term, bet the farm, bet your house comes from, because they would sell their house or
yeah,
remortgage it or refinance it, and then hopefully they have the down payment to put it back, and take over the title again.
yeah, yeah. Actually, this year I traded buying. I could have bought a house, and I traded buying a house to race. I was like, you know what? I'll regret this for the rest of my life if I don't try and do this. So
Yeah.
yeah, I totally get that.
And you could
100%.
I mean, it is a career as far as like if you get enough sponsorship to continue doing it,
Yeah.
that's it. I mean, you got it. And I mean, I think it was Josh Hayes, I want to say, didn't start racing motorcycles till he was like 26 or 28 years old, something in there. So, and look at him, he's a 4, 5 time superbike champ, whatever it is. I mean, one of the most winningest racers in the history of American motorcycle racing. And it's just amazing. You don't have to be starting at 2 years old as a baby to be a successful professional. You just have to find out, how to get there, how to afford it, and how to stay in it.
Yeah, the sustainability. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I got some work to do there. What I would love to do is love to figure out how to do like test riding and stuff. I find that to be super fascinating. Like one of the biggest things I've been learning this year is suspension and like what you do to chase things out, right? Like knowing what the bike's actually doing and knowing how to fix it by making small iterations of suspension. Because my suspension was just nowhere near what it needed to be at the start of the season, so I had to develop it. But yeah, test riding would be so cool to do. I feel like that would be a good opportunity to be able to like ride a lot and then ride a lot of different stuff while being able to race too. I feel like that would be a good way to support it.
Yeah. I would just start reaching out to race teams, like find contacts of 50 race teams, send them your resume and ask
Yeah,
them just that. Can I be a part of your team in any way? Do you need help? I can do this, this, this. What do you need? I'm at your service.
heck yeah.
I mean, that's how else you're going to find it, is just contacting people and networking and a little bit of spray and pray, see who responds. You're going to get 15 people not even open your email. You're going to get 10 of them say maybe.
Yeah,
You're going to get one person who's like, "Why'd you even send me this? This is spam." You're going to get the whole gamut if you do it that way. But like I've gotten a few jobs from finding an email address, sending out my resume and saying, "Hey, I'm looking to do this. Do you have any openings?" They weren't even hiring. There was no job application to fill out. I just sent them a resume and said, "This is what I'm doing. Can I help? I'd like to work for you." And they said a couple times, a couple different companies, yes. Like it works. It's possible, even if they're not hiring. They're always looking for good people.
yeah,
Or they might say,
100%.
we don't really have anything now. And then a couple months later, you get an email and say, "Hey, we have this opportunity. Would you like to do that?"
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that works out pretty good. Um, it's definitely the fear of rejection, I feel like is tough for some people. Like
Yeah.
to send it, to put any amount of effort into sending things off to people and then just having like no response or whatever. It's like you really got to get over that. It's such a hard thing to get over, I feel like sometimes though.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're looking for sponsorship, you're gonna get 1,000 no's and maybe 3 yeses and like a couple of
That's for
maybes
sure.
and like a few definitelys, but you never got the check for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's all over the place. And like me asking people to do this podcast, there's people I'm sure I've annoyed by asking them, and so I try to ask them one time, and then I don't ask again. I try to because I don't want to be annoying people, but sometimes they genuinely forget and they're like, "Oh yeah, I really did want to do that."
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's hard sometimes, but yeah, even with this, you ask 1,000 people, you only get a small percentage say yes. It's all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I think this stuff is really cool though too. I mean, I it's too bad I'm moving. I've got a whole like camera set up and mic set up and all the stuff. I wanted to set it up, but I just kind of like ran out of time to do that. But I love this stuff. I think it's interesting, and I mean I love that. I mean, you said you're at like what 120 something or 110 something. Like, I mean
Yeah.
that's dude, that takes so much effort to like not only I feel like to edit them, to do any corrections, to whatever, like yeah, it's a huge undertaking. I think it's insane. It's that you've gotten made it over 100. Like that's how long have you been doing this again?
A couple of years. I started over 2 years ago. I think I recorded the first one in February, and then I didn't publish it until May. So like I
Okay.
didn't even know how to edit it. When I first shot it, I didn't have any
Really?
editing program. I'm using a free one still, DaVinci Resolve. It's awesome.
Yeah,
It does everything I need. And yeah, it's just I didn't know how to do anything when I started. And you just like, okay, this is what I want to do. Now how do I do it?
that's
And
awesome.
I mean, I can do a bit of editing, but as if you watched any of them before, it's not super edited. I only will probably take out the part where the connection dropped for 10 seconds. You know,
Yeah.
I leave just about every stutter and curse word, and I leave it all because it's just raw. It's who we are. We're not trying to be anybody. We're not. And I think people like that. Um, I'm just I think this could be a career too. You know, I'll never be like a Joe Rogan. I'm not delusional, but like
Hey, you never know.
I've heard him say that, and this was probably a year or two ago, that he was making like $75,000 in ad revenue per episode.
That's crazy.
Aside from the company he has and the products that they sell, you know, um, and aside from the sponsorship deals that he gets and the exclusive rights from Spotify, it's like there are 17 ways to make money from a podcast. It's wild. And I've actually started to make money from YouTube monetizing the ads. And so
Oh, really?
that's one way to make money. Some months I'd be making, I don't know, 15, 20, $30 in ad revenue. If you get a
Heck
couple
yeah.
thousand views on a video, it's like I'm starting to make money. I mean, it's not positive yet. I've, bought a microphone and
Nah,
interface and laptop and and this table and what, just basic stuff like tripods and lighting booms and whatever. But, you know, at some point, yeah, if I have a million followers, I will be making a couple $1,000s or a couple $100, every week or every month. And it's like it could be a revenue stream, and it's starting to be. I think you have to hit $100 to get your first payment. So I haven't got my first payment yet, but it's like I can see it
you're
trickling
almost there.
upwards.
Yeah.
And something else I've been asking all the guests when they fill out my little questionnaire, it's optional, completely optional. But I ask them, would you like to spend money to help promote the episode? And then what I do is I go on different websites and buy ads myself to promote the episode. So that's also a way to help, boost the reach and get even more views. And that gives me ad revenue from doing that, from boosting it. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like this continuous cycle. And I really want to start getting businesses and companies. I'll do ad reads, do an ad for them, 15, 30 seconds, a minute, however long they want to pay for. And so it's like that's a extension of sponsorship. I could reach out to
Yeah.
those companies who sponsor me, and maybe they want to sponsor the podcast and the racing. So it's like you hit them with both sides. So just trying to put myself out there for the purpose of selling products for my business, but also for all these different things. It's like it could be really interesting, and I'm learning so much. And now I might have a contact for maybe going down this film route with filming amateur racing and just
Heck
networking
yeah.
with people. I've become a coach from talking to people, and like, man, I should do that. And just how often do you sit down with somebody for an hour without looking at your phone and just talk to them?
Oh yeah. It's like it's so rare these days. Most people you just say, "Oh, hey, hello, okay, bye." Or yeah, it's hard to have like good conversations, I feel like.
And
100%.
yeah, just trying to make money any way that I can. So I'm always looking for opportunities, have gear, will travel for race podiums, food, and money.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, 100%. Actually, even what is it? One of the things that was coming up as being a potential is have you looked at KTM's contingency
No, I
before?
haven't. Is it good?
Oh, it's really good. It's like I think it pays like is it top 5 that it pays? I can't I think it made it but it pays like $500 for a win.
Oh, wow.
Um like it actually pays pretty well for and I think if I recall it's any class. So literally if you have a KTM that's whatever within 2 years, uh any race you do qualifies for contingency. And if I recall, it's like literally almost all the race organizations as well. So the new 390 that came out is like pretty competitive. So you could just get like a 390. Like even some of my teammates were running 790 Dukes, and then they were doing the contingency stuff. And I mean, we're not talking about like a small amount of money. Like over the course of the season, even if you're doing a handful of like you can actually pay for your weekend and then make like $1,000 if you win
Yeah.
a lot, even if you got second, right? Like you can get paid. Obviously it's a pretty big upfront cost to go get a brand new 390 and then build it. But like, if you're doing pretty well, you could travel around and make some decent money doing it. But
Heck yeah. And that's what people say about, going to Daytona, $25,000 purse for first place and a Rolex for qualifying, or is that Rolex for the win?
um, I thought it was Rolex. I thought they did the watches for like the fastest
Fastest
qualifier or
lap.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So that's
But
pretty cool
still,
purse.
oh yeah. I mean, I wish it was like that for I wish they did that for the classes in MotoAmerica.
Well, Superbike classes pays out pretty well. I think it's near that, but then you also have to be, a top guy in the whole country to get that.
Yeah, that's also like their race programs are vastly different than the Twins Cup. And so, I
Yeah.
mean, they're like minimum budgets are like 300K or something like that, or 250K, like minimum, I'd say.
Yeah,
I
it's a
don't think you
lot.
could, I don't think you could do it for less than that, because like the bike builds alone are probably 150 grand, right? For super
Yeah.
bike, at least, I mean, I'm sure there's ways to get around it. The right people, you can get stuff that's maybe a little older or whatever. But if you're just going to go out and wing it, it's not going to be cheap for super bike. But
Yeah. I mean, you don't have multiple semi trucks?
oh yeah, no, I do. Just like yeah, it's we all get them straight from the government. With a race program sponsorship thing. Yeah, no, God, no. I
You
can't
know,
even. I mean,
there's other countries that get government support for racing because they want to promote this as a national thing. I've heard this as a
oh,
thing. They like maybe Spain or Italy, like or
they
some
they
European
must.
country probably that
Yeah.
it's such a national pastime that they help them out.
Wow. If only, if only we could get that to happen here. That would be so cool.
A racing
Um,
subsidy.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, subsidize it. I mean, hey, I actually what I would really like to see is uh electric motorcycles becoming more mainstream. I think once the battery technology is like so close. It's just so close. Just needs to get a little bit better. But I would love to see that subsidized because I think like if you're racing electric motorcycles, it gives you a really good opportunity to do the development with them. I mean, you see them in like the world level already at Moto E and stuff, but I think if we introduce if we encourage that at the club level and even at Moto America and stuff, and provide a platform for them, I feel like it could be pretty beneficial overall.
Oh
I'd
yeah,
happily hop on an e-bike to race it if it
it's
was
it's the
paid for.
future. It's the future, right?
Yeah. Or even like a hybrid and stuff, like with like more like fuels that are more catered towards like carbon neutral fuels and stuff, or even like hydrogen. But I don't know, I feel like that'd be kind of scary because hydrogen's not the best fuel to store.
Or
I feel like
crash. Yeah.
crashes would probably be pretty spectacular. But um, nevertheless, I think it would be cool to promote stuff like that and then get the government involved, like through means like that. But I mean, again, who's gonna? It's a heavy lift, I'd say,
There's
but it'd
money
be
out
cool.
there. You just got to make a compelling enough argument.
I guess that's all it comes down to, huh?
Yep, and convincing the right person who signs a checkbook. It's
Yeah,
possible. It's
yeah,
not probable, but it's definitely it could happen.
yeah. It could maybe in the next 10 years. We'll see.
I'd love to see Moto E in Moto America. I think that would be cool.
Yeah,
I mean, if they have hooligans and baggers and twins, I think there's a place for Moto E. But I mean, then you have to purchase a fleet of electric bikes and the power grid to do it and back it up. And I,
yeah, that's true.
I was thinking of doing a track day with a Tesla, but I'm like, I don't think they have any charging ports at the racetrack. At the local track, by my house, there's not Tesla charging ports at the racetrack. So like I'll be doing 1.5 sessions and then my car will die or something. I don't know how long the battery is, but I don't think it'll last the full track day.
No, not at pace, especially as you deplete them at like full kilt. They tend to get hot and they start to degrade in performance. But yeah, I mean the that that portion is definitely you can charge them if you have generators that are putting out, the right voltage and stuff. Um, so it's not, but then it kind of defeats the whole concept too, right? If you're running a freaking diesel or gas generator to like power, it's racing, I get it, but at some degree it'd be nice to like follow the whole chain down. But
Yeah, that's a big problem right now with, yes, they might be electric, but they're still burning, all these other natural resources and coal and, whatever else. It's even if you're using an electric vehicle, the electricity that was produced to put it in your car in the first place was not always produced by renewable sources.
oh yeah, no, not at all. I feel like we're on a good path to that. Like even like with everything that's going on overseas, which is just a total nightmare. But like with some of these countries having to like figure out what they're going to do for energy sources because they're not going to be getting oil or anything, is it sucks, but it's also a really fast way to like change and move over to renewable sources quickly. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think realistically, like energy probably won't be the biggest problem in the coming times, but well, I guess we'll just have to kind of see how that goes. So.
For sure, it's a changing of the times. It's I almost don't want to watch the I don't watch the news, but even look at the news and Google News on my phone because every time you do, it's like 3 people shot, 17 people stabbed. I'm like, everything's about death and murder and forest fires in California. I'm like, Jesus, this is not even worth my time looking at anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, it's like a lot of news outlets are viewership based, right? Like if you're not getting viewers, you don't have to, but they choose to be shock and awe and like sensational, whatever. I feel like it's how they make their money. So at the end of the day, everyone chases, no matter how hard you try not to, everyone chases money in some respect, right? Even if because it presents opportunities. And I don't know. I feel like yeah, the news outlets are just yeah. I can't watch them. I mean, it's I try to whatever try to get news from where I can, but yeah, it's yeah, and again too, like you don't even know half the time if it's been spun or whatever. It's hard to get just facts these days. I'd say like just
Yeah,
what
it's
actually happened.
it seems like the news and journalists, not all of them, I'm generalizing, but it seems like that whole industry has failed us. It's like this, I can't even trust what you're saying anymore. I don't even want to listen to what you're saying. I'd rather get my information from friends and family and people I know, like, hey, what's going on in the world? Just ask them, and I'm sure you can find out most of the things in 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, I mean, and even then that presents their own problems, right? Which is like, well, where did they get their information?
Yeah.
I feel like it's definitely like a sourcing thing, right? It's just like finding the like actual information on what happened, or like the other thing too is like even having the time to get that, right? Like I'm not going to go spend 2 hours watching some political thing. Like I'm not. I want a summary of it, but it's like who made that summary or whatever else. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, all I care about is motorcycles, ride motorcycles right now, and trying to do what I can outside of that. But I would just like to see like a little bit more development in that space for making our sport more sustainable, right? I mean, we do consume a lot when we do it, but at the same time, I mean, it's nothing compared to commuting in a car, for instance, right? Like again, we're only riding for an hour and a half total, so it's a little different. But yeah, it would definitely be interesting to see like some more electric stuff come out, and something like that would be cool.
I think it'll allow for a lot of new venues that don't have sound restrictions because it's way quieter. You could be potentially
Yeah.
racing in your backyard if you had a paved track or whatever, and your neighbors would just hear a whooshing, like a whizzing. It's not nothing loud like an exhaust or a Harley sound, and it's I think a lot more city racetracks and backyard racetracks will become a real thing.
Oh man, you know how cool it'd be if they did like oh they should oh my God, I want to see this so bad. Is if they did that's actually a super good point. They should do like e-bike racing and then carve out a track on like city streets. I mean, obviously it's a huge liability, but it's like imagine like racing around San Francisco like jumping up the hills or jumping down the hills and like doing crazy stuff like that. I mean, they already do it on bicycles, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's just like a little bit faster. Just do it a little faster.
it'd be like the Northwest 200 races, the Irish road races. And so for a while, I thought that would be the path to go down too, because you're bringing motorcycle racing where the people are, right?
Yeah,
You're not making them go 4 hours away to a racetrack.
no.
You're bringing racing to the city. Um, and yes, I'm a huge proponent of that. But as I was talking to one of my friends about it, he's like, if you do this, people are gonna die. Like, it's just a fact. You know, if you have road races in a city for motorcycles, you're going to have a percentage that will die. Just like at the Isle of Man, just like at, all these races, it's a higher percentage than a racetrack. It's a fact. So it's like, yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it would promote the sport, but more people would die. So it's like, what's the better thing? And so I just kind of dropped it. I was like, maybe I don't want to pursue that. But maybe if you had good runoff in the city, then it's okay.
Yeah.
So you have to just find the right location. Like maybe Belle Isle in Detroit would be good. They have IndyCar racing there, but when IndyCar comes, they put up tons of walls. So that track, that layout is not okay. Um, but something, I mean, there's got to be a spot maybe close to the city or within 100 miles of the city that would be a good location that has enough runoff. But I would just not want to be whizzing past, the Renaissance building at 120 miles an hour.
Yeah, probably not ideal. Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about safety. I mean, the whole thing with safety is like the only reason we need runoff is because we don't know how to slow things down enough in a short amount of time. I feel like if we adapt, like one of the biggest things, we definitely need to adapt curbing, right? Like some new safety equipment that, like even if it's a ramp, right? You don't want to hit a yay high solid object in general, and then you can from there it's like, the airbag fences work really good, but I'm sure there's better ways to absorb energy, than an airbag,
Move the
that are like,
wall.
yeah, just figure out how to create more space and then create safer space. But yeah, I mean, it's also a huge problem, right? Because there's trees and fire hydrants and all types of garbage that obviously
Doesn't
can't
move.
remove.
Yeah.
No. So there's definitely some problems. Yeah, I mean, that would suck if people are dying. I feel like if you make courses that are, but then again, it's like you got to make it compelling and exciting. So if you slow things down, does that make it less compelling and exciting? And sometimes it does. So, I don't know. I'm sure if it was feasible, someone would have probably done it already. But and I'm sure the city of San Francisco would be like, nah, we don't want that liability or that image, either.
Well, there's a couple of things there. So when Formula One came to Miami, they actually moved entire like electrical poles and they rerouted wires and like major city infrastructure. They're like, nope, we're Formula One. We're gonna move that pole. We don't want it there. That's where a racetrack goes. So if there's enough money, you can convince anybody of anything, and even entire cities to change their infrastructure for your racetrack. So some things can be moved, but that costs a lot of money. Um, it's just it's interesting,
So
to see how it's going to develop and how it's going to, maybe be implemented or not.
so what we'd have to do is we'd have to propose it to NASCAR so that NASCAR could bring the money in,
Yep.
and then we could use it because they're only going to use it for like one event, you know what I mean? Like two
And
events.
yep.
Or even man, how cool. Have you ever seen those what are those, the truck racing that they do with the jumps?
Yeah, I've seen those.
Oh my God. Can you imagine those things just like flying around San Francisco, like just launching up the hills and stuff? I think that'd be the most psycho thing ever.
That'd be
It'd be
wild.
so it'd be insane to watch. I mean, that stuff would be, I feel like that would be an interesting, because like the thing is too is it doesn't have to be some crazy course, right? Like even what is it? Uh I forget all the different configurations, but they run pretty short tracks over in Ireland. Like they run what is it? Like it's not, I forget, but they like divvy out like the whole circuit. They have smaller ones that they'll run too, right?
Different
Subsections.
configurations.
Yeah. Yeah, they could do something like that. That'd be
I've
interesting, I
I've
feel like.
even thought, man, if you can get 30,000 people in a stadium, you could create some sort of racetrack. Now, I know it's cement, you're gonna have to tear it down at the end of the event, but like if you could figure out how to make a small racetrack, maybe you're not even getting over 100 miles an hour, but you're on sport bikes, you're on the same classes. Let's just make a really tight track in a stadium. Slower speeds, maybe you're not even getting up to fourth or maybe fifth or sixth gear. I don't know what, depending on your gearing. But
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to see a really tight track in a stadium with runoff, not right up to the walls, but have a decent amount of runoff and do it in a stadium.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. I mean, it's like Supercross does really well, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what Supercross does. Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. I mean, even actually the other day I was watching okay, this is what I find so funny about like the UK and stuff. They broadcast everything and they're broadcasting like mini bike races, like literal like 50cc mini bikes, but it's all like adults.
Yeah.
And they're just taking this so seriously. Like, and the announcers are, and it's like it literally looks like a MotoAmerica production, freaking, but mini bike race. And it was
Awesome.
actually the most interesting thing to watch because like they're, they crash, right? But like when you crash on a 50, like you just like you're like kicking your feet trying to like, push bike it and stuff. But it's hilarious. And it was just like, you could even, it doesn't have to be like crazy stuff like that. I think small bike racing is still really fun to watch and interesting as well.
For sure. And then
You
you
know?
get, children and adults out there at the same time riding the same kind of machinery.
Yeah.
You're like, this he's faster than me. It's only because he's 65 pounds lighter than me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think they should make it what is it? Like balance everything by weight, or just like separate the classes because you got no chance. Like when you got
Yeah.
like 6 horsepower or even like 15, 20, and someone weighs that much less than you, you're just like, see ya.
Well, I did a go-kart racing league, and they actually had a over 200 and under 200 pounds
Oh,
because
really?
your weights are so dramatic. You only have like what, a couple horsepower on that cart, so your weight matters.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's actually cool. I'm surprised that they did stuff like that. That's sick.
Yeah. So where can the people find you online? Where are you out there on the internet?
Yeah, so the best place to kind of to find me right now is on Instagram, which is at Wesley, which is WESLEY underscore Lucky13, and that's my kind of team name for Moto America. But that's best place to find me. I haven't really built out much social media stuff. It's kind of tough, but yeah, that's a good place to kind of see what's going on and where we're at in the season and what we're kind of doing, just general stuff. So
Very good. Well, that's about an hour and 20 some minutes, so I'll wrap it up here. But thanks for talking to me, and I'll see you at the
yeah,
next 2 rounds. Um, so good luck out there and keep it on at least one wheel unless you're jumping it.
yeah, exactly, 100%. All right, thanks, Eric. Appreciate it, man. It was good talking.
All right. I'll be sure to get this posted and tag you and just share it when it comes out.
Cool, sounds good, man.
All right. Thanks.
See ya.